My hands gripped the cheap motel sheets like they were the only thing anchoring me to earth. His mouth was buried between my thighs, and my eyes rolled back as the tension I had bottled up for months tore through me like wildfire. I gasped his name, loud and clear, Ethan. I said it again. And again. Until suddenly I stopped. Because my eyes caught the shadow. A tall figure at the door. And then, the red light. The camera. My husband was standing there, filming me while I was spread wide open for another man. My blood ran cold. But it was too late. I had already screamed someone else's name. Hey everyone. Before I tell you the rest of this story, let me just say how deeply thankful I am for every single one of you who have subscribed to this channel. You all are the reason I keep sharing these raw and deeply personal stories. If you are new or returning and you have not subscribed yet, would be so grateful if you did. Your subscription is the fuel that keeps this channel running, and I promise, stories like this one will make it worth it. Also, do not forget to engage with this video by sharing your thoughts in the comments section below. I read every single one, and your feedback means the world. Now, let me introduce myself. My name is Rachel Simmons. I am a 33-year-old white woman living in a small suburban town outside Austin, Texas. I have been married for 7 years to Derek Simmons, who is 39, a corporate consultant, the type who always had more chemistry with spreadsheets than he did with me. We live in a beautiful home, drive nice cars, take 2 vacations a year, and from the outside, we look like the perfect couple. The neighbors wave. The Christmas cards are always coordinated. But inside that house, I was dying. Then came Ethan Parks, 31, a personal trainer at the local gym. All tattoos and danger, with a smile that made my spine melt. I went to that gym to lose weight. I ended up losing my damn morals. I used to think emotional distance was better than physical abuse. I used to tell myself that silence in a marriage was just a phase. But after a while, I realized I was sleeping beside a stranger every night, a man who no longer looked at me, who no longer noticed when I wore something new, who only spoke to me in calendar reminders. Sex became mechanical. If it happened at all. There were months when the bed was just cold sheets and cold shoulders. I would lie there, night after night, staring at the ceiling fan, wondering if this was it. If this was what every marriage eventually became, a silent agreement to tolerate one another until death or divorce. Then I started going to the gym. Ethan was the kind of man who oozed confidence. He wore sleeveless shirts that hugged every inch of his sculpted arms. His voice was low and playful, and when he laughed, it made you want to laugh too, even if you were having the worst day. I noticed him. And then, he noticed me. I would be stretching, and he would walk past with a little smirk. He started correcting my form, touching my waist, my shoulders, always lingering just a second too long. The first time I caught him looking at my backside in the mirror, should have walked away. But I did not. Because someone had finally seen me. Not the wife. Not the dishwasher. Not the maid. Me. Rachel. A woman. The first time we kissed, it was in the gym parking lot. Rain was falling, and my hoodie was soaked through. He walked me to my car, and before I could even thank him, his lips were on mine. It was like my body came back to life. Within a week, I was in his apartment. Within a month, we were meeting in hotels across town. He made me feel beautiful. Desired. Alive. It was reckless. It was wrong. But I could not stop. That night, the night everything came crashing down, Ethan had texted me an address. Room 16. No questions. It was a rundown motel near the freeway. The kind of place where the paint peeled from the doors and the bed squeaked if you even looked at it too hard. I walked in wearing nothing but a trench coat and heels. Underneath, lace. Red. The kind I used to wear for Derek before he stopped caring. Ethan was already there, shirtless, leaning against the headboard like a scene out of a dirty movie. He did not say a word. He just took me. Hard. Fast. Over and over. My legs shook. My mouth could not keep quiet. And then, it happened. I screamed his name. Over and over. Until the room went still. Ethan froze. My eyes opened. And I saw him. Derek. Standing in the doorway. Holding his phone. Recording. My heart stopped. The moans still echoed in the air like a ghost refusing to leave. Ethan scrambled off the bed, shouting something, I do not even remember what. I pulled the sheet up, shaking, breathless, humiliated. Derek just stood there. No anger. No yelling. Just, filming. And then, he turned around, and walked away. I sat in my car outside the motel for over an hour, staring at the steering wheel. Ethan had left without saying much. Maybe he was scared. Maybe he did not care. I texted Derek. He did not reply. I called. Voicemail. I drove home, praying he would not be there. But the house was dark and empty. No note. No suitcase. No broken picture frames. Just, quiet. Until I walked into our bedroom. And saw it. A USB stick placed neatly on my pillow, like a death sentence. I plugged it into my laptop. And there it was. Footage of me, moaning, screaming, clawing at Ethan like a feral animal. But then, the video changed. It cut to Derek. Smiling. In a hotel lobby. With a woman. Her back turned. But I knew that blonde hair. I knew that laugh. It was my best friend, Laura. When I pressed play on that USB drive, I expected shame. I expected guilt, disgust, maybe even some twisted footage of Derek walking away in silence, or packing a suitcase and fast forward like they do in cheap documentaries. But I never expected what I saw. It started with me, wild and exposed in the motel room, caught mid-moan with Ethan gripping my thighs like he owned them. Then came the hard cut. Another hotel room. Different angle. A woman, my best friend, Laura, laughing at something Derek whispered in her ear. Her hand on his chest. His fingers trailing up her thigh. My breath caught in my throat. It was not just revenge. It was not just heartbreak. This was war. I sat in the middle of our king-sized bed, surrounded by things I once loved, scented candles, throw pillows, photo frames of fake smiles. Everything suddenly felt like props from a set I had never truly lived in. I stared at the screen, watching Derek and Laura drink wine and toast to something I could not hear. Their smiles were intimate, like this was not new. Like it had history. Like it had depth. My stomach twisted. Laura had been in my life since college. We had matching tattoos on our ankles. She was the maid of honor at my wedding. She had held my hand while I cried over miscarriages. She had slept in this very bed after her messy divorce 3 years ago. And she was screwing my husband. Suddenly, things began to make sense. How Laura always had advice about forgiving distant husbands. How she once joked about Derek being the only decent man left. How she stopped bringing her new boyfriends around me. The late-night texts. The sudden gym membership cancellation. The weird tension I had ignored for months because I thought it was in my head. It was never in my head. I had been played. By both of them. I needed answers. And I needed them now. I called Derek. Straight to voicemail. I called again. Same result. So I did something impulsive. I drove to Laura's place. I did not text. I did not knock. I pounded the door like a woman possessed. She opened it wearing one of my old sweatshirts. My voice trembled, but I forced the words out. You slept with my husband. She blinked. No shock. No confusion. Just a small, cold smile. I did, she said. And you moaned someone else's name while he filmed it. I froze. How did you know about the video? She stepped aside and let me in like we were just two friends catching up on a casual Tuesday. The apartment looked exactly the same as I remembered, candles burning, tea steeping, soft jazz playing. Only this time, I was not safe here. Laura walked to her kitchen island and placed her wine glass down. She looked me in the eye and said, because I told him to film it. I could not believe what I was hearing. She leaned in closer. This was never about Derek. This was about you. I laughed, that dry, hysterical kind of laugh people make before they break. You wanted me to cheat? I whispered. Laura nodded. I knew you were lonely. I knew you were vulnerable. I just needed to give you a nudge. She poured herself more wine and continued like she was telling a bedtime story. I introduced you to that gym. I asked Ethan to flirt with you. My knees buckled, and I sat down on her velvet couch, unable to form a full sentence. Wait. You, what? She stared at me like I was pathetic. I paid him, Rachel. I paid him to make you fall. I had given Ethan my body. My trust. My soul. And he was just another actor in her cruel theater. He had said all the right things. Touched me the right way. Held me like he saw through every wall. It was never real. Why? I asked. Laura's eyes narrowed. Because you ruined my brother. I stared at her. What? She sat down across from me, crossed her legs, and spoke with venom. Senior year of college. You dumped him. Ghosted him. Left him suicidal for months. I blinked in confusion. Wait, Mark? She nodded slowly. That man worshipped you. And you treated him like dirt. I was a kid, I said, my voice shaking. He was obsessive. He scared me. Laura smirked. You never even gave him a reason. I remembered the night I broke it off with Mark. He had been clingy, possessive, and frightening. He threatened to hurt himself if I left. I blocked him for my safety. But none of that mattered now. Not to her. She had been waiting over a decade to make me pay. I left her apartment numb, barely able to hold the steering wheel. The city lights blurred into each other. My chest felt like it was caving in. I had been betrayed. I had been used. And the worst part? I had brought it all on myself. Every time I had skipped marriage counseling. Every time I had chosen desire over honesty. Every time I had looked at Ethan and called it love. Now, the camera had caught everything. And Derek had it all. When I arrived home that night, the front door was unlocked. A single envelope sat on the dining table. My name in his handwriting. Inside was a note. Rachel. I do not want to see you. I do not want to hear you cry. I want you to feel everything I felt the moment I heard you scream his name. I have sent copies of the video to our lawyer. I am filing. I want the house. I want my car. And I want you gone before Friday. D. There was no love. No goodbye. Just a sentence that bled like a wound. That night, I curled up in a fetal position on the floor of the bedroom. The sheets still smelled like him. The closet still held his suits. The wedding photo still hung above the dresser. I stared at the ceiling fan and wondered how everything had collapsed so fast. I had thought I was lonely before. But this? This was a new level of hell. And I had not even reached the worst part yet. Because 3 days later, I received a package at the door. A burned DVD. With the words, "For your parents." The moment I opened that package and saw the DVD labeled, "For your parents," I realized Derek had not just come to destroy our marriage, he had come to destroy me. He wanted to humiliate me beyond superscript 11. He wanted to shame me in front of the people who had raised me, who had trusted him, who had invited him to sit at our holiday tables year after year like family. I sat at the edge of the bed, the DVD clutched in my hand, trembling like a ticking bomb. My parents were deeply religious. My father was a retired pastor. My mother, a strict Southern woman who believed a woman's reputation was her only armor in this world. If they saw that video, it would crush them. Which meant I had only one option left. Beat him at his own game. In those few days after Derek served me the letter and demanded I leave the house, I did something he never expected. I stopped crying. Stopped begging. Stopped feeling sorry for myself. I turned on the same ruthless energy they had used against me, and redirected it. I started making calls. Pulled favors. Hired a digital forensics expert. You see, Derek thought he was smart, but I knew him. I knew his arrogance. His patterns. His weaknesses. And I knew something he had forgotten. I was once just as cold as he was. I just learned how to bury it. I started with Laura. I did not go after her emotionally. No tears. No confrontation. I dug. And I found something interesting. She had a fiancé, Matt Grayson. We had never met in person, because Laura said he was not into social gatherings. But a quick online search gave me more than I needed. Matt was a tech entrepreneur. Well off. Well connected. And clearly clueless about the little motel escapades his fiancée had been indulging in. So I sent him a package. Inside. Printed screenshots of Laura and Derek entering hotel rooms. A typed letter, signed anonymously, with dates and locations. A link to a private Google Drive folder with all the raw video clips Derek had once proudly recorded. Yes, I had hacked back in and made copies. It was brutal. But fair. Derek had been bragging for months about a career-changing promotion celebration being hosted at his firm's headquarters. Everyone who mattered would be there, bosses, executives, potential clients, family friends. He thought it would be the crown jewel of his comeback. Instead, it became his funeral. I dressed carefully that night. Black dress. Hair up. Simple heels. I arrived 15 minutes after the event had begun. I walked in like I belonged there. Like nothing had ever happened. And as soon as I stepped into that grand hall, I saw him. Derek. Glass of champagne in hand, standing next to Laura, laughing with people who had no idea they were looking at two monsters in designer clothing. He did not notice me. Not until I stepped on stage. The projector behind me lit up. I had timed it perfectly. There was no introduction. No warning. Just the start of the footage. Derek's voice first, "Yeah, open your legs wider." Then Laura's giggle. Then cuts of them kissing, touching, entering hotel rooms, him adjusting the camera before climbing onto the bed with her. Gasps rippled through the crowd like a wave crashing onto the shore. Someone shouted, "Oh my God." Another whispered, "Is that Laura?" Derek's glass slipped from his hand. Shattered. Laura turned white. And I? I smiled. Derek was fired within the hour. His boss said it was not just the scandal, it was the fact he had filmed his own wife cheating, held onto it, and used it as leverage. It painted a picture of someone unstable, manipulative, and dangerous. Laura's fiancé? He walked into the party halfway through the video, and walked out with her ring in his hand. She chased after him in tears. No one stopped her. The firm issued a press release the next day disassociating from Derek. His accounts were frozen pending legal review of personal misconduct. It was a massacre. And I delivered every wound. I moved out that weekend, not in shame, but with grace. I left behind the cold, suffocating house and rented a small modern loft downtown. Started rebuilding my life. I got certified in fitness coaching, ironic, maybe, but the gym had been the place where this all began. Now it would be where I healed. Within 6 months, I launched a women-only coaching brand that grew like wildfire. My story, yes, the real one, inspired women who had been silenced by shame. I refused to hide anymore. Because here is the truth. I had made mistakes. But I had also been played. And I refused to be the woman who just folded and disappeared. One night, almost a year later, I was invited to speak at a local networking event. After my panel, someone approached me with a kind smile and a firm handshake. "Hi," he said, "I am Matt. Laura's ex." I froze. He chuckled, sensing the tension. "Relax," he said. "I wanted to thank you." We ended up talking for hours. And later, we started dating. Yeah. You heard me right. I fell in love with the man Laura lost. Is that karma? Maybe. Or maybe, it was just two wounded people finally finding peace in each other. Infidelity is ugly. Painful. Shameful. But it is never one-sided. And it never happens in a vacuum. Some betrayals are loud, like moaning another man's name. Some are quiet, like filming your wife while planning her humiliation. And some are scripted years in advance, by a so-called friend who never let go of hate. But I survived it all. And I became someone stronger. Someone free. So to anyone out there drowning in secrets, guilt, or betrayal, let me say this. You are not finished. You are just getting started.